I guess happy Saturday. 7 days ago, today, I was on the beach. There was an ocean breeze. There were people walking around and about, playing with their dogs, throwing frisbees, going to conventions, all without the fear of exploding from the heat of your own body combined with that of the sun. 7 days ago, I was in San Diego, California for 4 days, surrounded and immersed in absolute geekdom, not afraid to go outside and die. But alas, I had to return. The adult in me had to come back into the absolute microwave oven that is my current hometown, where today it was 113 degrees. Still trying to keep the memory fresh in my mind, trying to do that wishing you were somewhere else thing, and maybe you'll feel like it, and it's not working. My body hasn't forgiven me for returning it back to this hellscape of Las Vegas, Nevada, where for at least one more month we'll be in triple digits. Then my favorite part of the year comes around, fall, autumn, whatever the hell you want to call it, football season, the end of baseball season, creeping closer to NHL and NBA, and most of all, remember that hour I got fucked out of 6 months ago? We get that back. So much to look forward to. Welcome to the Sci-Fi Center live Saturday overnighter. Missed you last week because obviously we were I was broadcasting from San Diego. I did my best to do broadcast for you guys from there, but man, there is being able to broadcast from your office or the store or somewhere where you can set up the way you want to. Something to be said for that, because wow, I did it from the airport. I did it from the common area in the hotel I was staying. I did it from the con itself, and it sucked in each and every one of those places. But what my mission was, one of my missions as far as YouTube and Instagram and all that, was to give you as many pictures and as much video and as much interaction so that you felt like you were there with me. So hopefully I achieved that mission. It was a lot of fun. Like I said before, get to a con. It doesn't have to be San Diego. Everywhere you're at, somewhere, small town, small city, doesn't matter. Get yourself to a place where you can be surrounded by people who are into the same stuff you are. Trust me, it'll carry you through the year. It'll carry you through the year, especially if you can go more than one. Whew. Okay, so tonight's sponsors are, and Paramount is going to send me stuff to give away for this, and Transformers: Rise of the Beast. Now it's on Paramount Plus, but most of you don't have Paramount Plus, so you can get it on digital VOD, or you can get it on physical media from Paramount Home Video. And I've already read all the promos for that. So Paramount is going to get us some giveaways for that. I don't know if they're going to be digital transfers or if they're going to be steelbook, stuff like that. So I will keep you posted on that, because we're still running this promo, and I'll probably run this ad at least 2 more times. And by that time, I'll have details of, we'll probably do a night where we do a giveaway. But I saw it. Like I said, it was a good start for where they're going. All right, and then it, because when I was in San Diego, you have to have sacrifices. I gave up 190,000 degree heat, but I also gave up Sister Kim's kitchen. And trying to find a meal down in San Diego that didn't bankrupt me was not an easy task, especially when they close. Everything closes, and the further you get from downtown, the lesser is open. So Sister Kim's kitchen, like I said, I had to go a week without it. I suffered for you guys, but they're here in Las Vegas, Nevada. There's their menu. I think I've cleared this menu out, but I always go back to the same things: loaded fries or this hamburger. Now, this little carton is pretty sizable. I have big alligator hands. I have huge hands. I'm a pretty big dude. So look at how it's feeling in my hand now. I'm gonna zoom in here. I wish I had like a zoom cameras and a drone in here. Look how that hamburger it just towers over the carton, right? And then look at that angle. I'm gonna try not to drop this on my laptop. And it doesn't matter if I drop it on the laptop or the floor. It's getting eaten. It's getting eaten 100%. 10-second roll. I don't care. Look at that. That is a double cheeseburger. So once again, I came back to hell, but I also came back to Sister Kim's Kitchen. We also have to give a huge shout out to Trauma Pictures. They made my trip possible. They took care of me while I was there. It was fun working their booth. Thank you to Lloyd Kaufman. Thank you to Megan and Marcus, Chrissy Rose, everybody that was with us in Trauma. That was a very, very fun booth to be a part of. And I hope they, depending on the landscape next year, I'm hoping Hollywood stays away. That's going to be one of the topics that we're going to cover. Among the topics before I bring in the wingmen are obviously we're going to go over the strike. Some of the ramifications and some of the delays that come from that. We're going to ask a question, a strike-related question. Does Comic-Con need Hollywood? Do they need the studios? My answer is unequivocally no. They do not. They do not. I know they'll be back next year. But to be honest with you, I hope that they're back in a different way. I hope they're back in a way that is not as disruptive as it has been. Because, like I said, I went to this con this year, and there was no shortage of fun. There was no shortage of foot traffic. The vendors that were there got a lot more attention because not everybody was crammed in certain areas. There were plenty of panels, but like I said, it was more spread out than any of the previous conventions I'd been to in San Diego. We're going to give a review of Secret Invasion, which I did for the last episode, and I couldn't defend it anymore. Secret Invasion series finale was awful. What else we got? Making sure that I give you guys a preview. I almost forgot my favorite thing of the week that we do. The Turning Point storyline. This week is going to be Age of Apocalypse. For those of you who haven't tuned into the show before, I basically take a storyline that I think is a turning point in comics. Last time we did Mutant Massacre, we've done a couple before. Sometimes we do a longer version called Sci-Fi Center Presents, and some of these you'll see covered in depth there. But tonight, I just want to get a conversation started with Age of Apocalypse. That was my first full year as a store owner, and that was one of the most important storylines in comics. Not necessarily immediately for that time period, because the mid-90s for Marvel Comics and DC Comics sucked. But there were some good storylines that had ramifications to this day. And Age of Apocalypse was one of them. So let me go ahead and bring in Brad.
Hey, William. Hot enough for you?
And let's see. Well, we're back here again.
Yeah, I think you were saying it was about 78 in San Diego last week, right?
78 was the high.
Wow.
San Diego.
Yeah, because I've been to LA once, and that was when long time ago. I haven't been to California, really since. So it's like I haven't had the chance to kind of sample that. I haven't been to San Diego, but I mean, it would sound like it was definitely a nice sort of a downgrade climate wise from kind of the inferno that Vegas is.
The 7/29/2023 me is envious of 7/23/2023 me. I would tell you that right now, and they're the same guy.
Yeah.
So yeah, we're back here in Vegas. Yay! All right, so I still have to send out your phones, but until then, I'm gonna mute you because I can hear me.
Yeah, I got you, man.
All right. So where do I have to start? All the news this week has been either average or bad. Let's start out with the strike. You there, Thade? I see him on my screen, but I don't hear.
I'm here. I'm here.
Okay. The strike. The only news that we have on the strike right now is that the writers and I guess it's SAG requested to continue talks, and the producers said no. So that's really the only news I have, other than the fact that it's destroying a whole bunch of stuff. And I'll go ahead and bring that, including Beyond the Spider Verse, which, by the way, in all fairness, had no chance in hell of being released March 2024.
Yeah. If there's a silver lining to it, that's like they really are going to benefit from that breathing room.
Well, they're going to benefit from lying because nobody. When I was sitting there and they told us that, we'll see you in March 2024, I'm like,
yeah, the hell we will.
maybe, but I doubt it. And this is another thing, and it goes to Superman Legacy. Even before the strike, when they told me July or fall of 2025, I didn't take that seriously. And I'm not saying that they're lying. I mean, I'm pretty sure that they mean to get it out by then, that's their projected date. But given just the inherent things that happen in movie making, I was like, there's no way in hell they're going to make that. Now with this strike, not only will it affect that production, but you got effects houses and all the people that work on mutual things that are now having everything pushed back, and are will be contractually obligated to get those things done first. So everybody's top priority might not be the priority if you're using mutual effects people. And then you have the, schedule conflicts now that are going to be caused by this, by people who, actors and actresses that are in other things and doing other things. And then your promotional time, because that's one of the reasons why a lot of these things are getting moved, because some of these things are done, but they don't want to put them out there without promotion because they've seen the results of that. So far, I keep hearing, I've 50-50. I've heard that Dune will not be pushed, but I've also heard that it will be.
Yeah, there's some back and forth on that.
I'm still trying to figure that information out. So.
Me too, because I do.
We just had a whole slew of delays this week too. It was Sony doing it. They pushed back Kraven the Hunter. They pushed back, I think it was Ghostbusters, and of course now Spider-Man Beyond the Spider-Verse is undated. So, and that to me, I absolutely took that as the opening salvo. We are going to be hearing about a lot more delays for stuff that's currently slated for this fall and winter season.
Oh yeah, screwing up what was my favorite time of the year, but movie-wise, it's gonna suck. All right, so we're gonna go over Variety only because there's nothing in dispute here. If there was anything in dispute, I would not use Variety. I would have not used the Wrap. I would not deadline any of those places. I'm only referring to a trade because there's nothing gray area about this. This is what it is. Oh boy. All right, we're gonna start with Sony. Sony Pictures has made some significant release date shifts for the upcoming films, including Kraven the Hunter. That sucks because I want to see the guy's nose get bitten off. And Spider-Man Beyond the Spider-Verse. The delays come as a dual union strikes disrupt the day-to-day business in Hollywood, and SAG-AFTRA conflict makes it particularly difficult to open major fall movies without the participation of star talent. Aaron Taylor Johnson's anticipated outing Kraven is shifting to August 30, 2024. That sucks. From a planned October 6th outing of this year. That's a big shift. The push to next Labor Day is vital. Studios Insider said, as leading man, Taylor Johnson would need to engage in a worldwide press tour to open up the visceral action project in just over 2 months. Okay, that sucks. None of the crappy movies that I could do without are ever getting delayed. If it sucks, here's probably going to be the rule. If it sucks, it ain't getting delayed. If it's something I want to see, it's probably going to get delayed to infinity. All right, Spider-Man Beyond the Spider-Verse, the third film in the blockbuster Lord and Miller animated series, has been undated. It was meant to open March 29, 2024, which was no chance in hell. Due to the union's work stoppage orders, the voice cast cannot complete the dialogue recording in time for the spring opening, said Sony source. A new date is expected in coming weeks. It's probably the real one that they met anyway. A planned sequel to Ghostbusters Afterlife, a Paul Rudd vehicle, which wrapped over $2 million at the worldwide box office in 2021, has been pushed from its 2023 Christmas corridor, December 20th, to Easter weekend next year. That's not as bad, but a Karate Kid. Now, this is one I was not going to see. A Karate Kid reboot has also been kicked from June 7, 2024 to December 13, 2024. And the Blumhouse project, Date Listen, is also now undated and planned for August 30, 2024 opening. The studio's date shuffle isn't all delays. Dakota Johnson fans are getting their slice of Spider-Man universe. Madam Web, which I think is going to be an underrated movie, on Valentine's Day 2024, 2 days earlier from its planned February 16 battle. Venom 3 also received a release date for July 12, 2024, and Bad Boys 4 is set for June 14, 2024. So you do have some blockbusters in there. The studio's most imminent release, Neil Blomkamp's Gran Turismo. I have no desire to see this. I've seen the trailer like 10 times now. A sports biopic starring David Harbour, Orlando Bloom, and Archie Blockhead. I don't care about that. So yeah, this is just from Sony. And here's where it starts to affect this geek. Sony is not as involved in some of the stuff that they got coming up as the company that just named a brand new studio head. This is gonna fuck Warner Brothers bad. They'll screwing themselves
massively.
This is going to screw up. I already said, like I just said, with Superman Legacy, you weren't getting that. And if you were to get that in 2025, I don't even know if I want to see what it's going to look like, because I just think that when you're making a movie like this, there's just going to be some things that happen. But you have a domino effect when you have a shared universe, because the order of which you plan these things out is affected by what gets released and what gets not released. Just like the with Blade and Mahershala, Vampire Hunter, Blade Vampire, that not being delayed before all this happened was screwing up other things because the way they tell their stories. So you got issues with this, but at least with the MCU, everything is already off the ground. You have 14 years of storytelling to go back on. You're trying to get something set, and somebody was telling me at least this will give it more time for them to get ready and more time for people to forget about previous stuff. So I'm like, no, I don't think so. I think it just gives you more time to forget about DC films and more time to have to ramp up momentum for something brand new. And this is why I thought that they should have planned, strike or no strike, they should have planned for the interim and done a better transition, because here I think people, you're struggling to get eyes on your product now. Adding 3 years isn't going to help. That's just my opinion. But what do you guys think of all this upheaval that we kind of all three knew was coming? But I'll start with you, Dave, and then I'll go to Brett.
It's gonna suck if there's a bunch of delays. I know the things that have already been delayed. I don't know. This is gonna be a while before anything good new comes out. I have a feeling, because we're 80 days in to the writers' strike, and about a month into the SAG, or a couple of weeks into the SAG strike, and still nothing. And we don't even know what they're really fighting over at this point. Is it the money? Is it the AI? Who knows?
Well, a lot of it is the AI is part of it, but the residuals is the biggest thing. The biggest thing and this is why I think it's going to last a while, is because there's almost no room. There's more room for Warner Brothers, Paramount, the big studios. There's more room for them. There ain't no room for Netflix. It's just their business model. I don't know if their business model will allow, depending on what kind of percentage is acceptable for the writers and the actors. You know what I mean? If it's a certain level, okay, maybe I'll pay a couple bucks extra more than I'm paying right now for Netflix if that's what I have to do. I don't mind. I'm okay with putting the money into something I enjoy. I enjoy Netflix. And if this gets it going to where all parties involved get what they need, let's not get unreasonable, but I'm willing to be a part of that solution with money. If it's astronomical or if they're too far apart, then I don't know if Netflix can. I don't know if their investors will be like, we'll go for that. It's a tough situation. Warner Brothers, there's no excuse. I'm sorry. They can get it. Paramount can get it. I mean, they have other revenue streams. to bring in revenue. Netflix that's it. That's all they have. So I've been saying from Netflix might be the one that hangs us up for the next 6 to 9 months. But like I said, I feel like we're in for a long, unless there's a breakthrough. And I don't know which way I want this to break. On the one hand, I can understand the business concerns of Netflix, but on the other hand, I don't agree with the way the other studios are handling it. I think there's two different goals here. I think Netflix has to remain, cohesive in their business plan to a certain extent. I think the other studios are just trying to break the union.
Well, they've been, kind of very forthcoming with that, with some of the sound bites that have emerged about we just gonna kind of wait these unions out until they start going broke, and then come groveling back to us. But the way I've been kind of examining a lot of this is is really kind of my barometer really has been sort of the response that we've been seeing from a lot of the studios. And we just saw this week that the WGA SAG, they were ready to go back to the negotiating table, and the suit said, no, we're not going to do that yet. So I absolutely took that as a sign that they really are trying to dig their heels in, and they're really at this point in time, it's definitely at an impasse. And we're at I think you would mention also, in talking to people within the industry at at Comic-Con this past weekend, you had gotten the sense that this could last 6 to 9 months, and that was like from the beginning of the SAG strike, correct?
Yeah, from where we were at last week, when I was in San Diego, it just didn't seem like there was a lot of optimism.
And then we add into we're seeing our first kind of slew of delays with what Sony has put out, and I mean, expect more of that from other studios. Everybody, I mean, there's just no getting around that. So with anything that's if it's not already in the can and it hasn't gotten rolling yet, I mean, I think you could add tack at least a year onto probably when it's going to the projected debut date of anything.
Yeah. So it was like I said, because I made it a point to go around and talk to you can overhear conversations at Comic-Con. You can just kind of step into a conversation, and then you look at the badge and like, okay, that guy might know what he's talking about. And then when we were at the Star Trek Hall H, they're all there, and they're all trying to be friendly about it, not to but they're giving you no indication. When somebody gives you no indication that they're not even close, you can just put a clock in your head at 6 months, unless something. And then my fear is that the actors have the wherewithal, and in some cases, they have a guy like The Rock that can put in some money to it and things like that. I don't know how long one side can hold out over the other, because the Writers Guild makes considerably less and have considerably less leverage than the Actors Guild. So I'm hoping that this doesn't break completely for the studios, because I think that's going to create a really bad atmosphere. I think if that happens, that could have the same effect as the airlines pilots and all that strike back in when Reagan did that. What Reagan did, and I said this over and over again, no matter what your politics are, once he did that, believe it or not, that leads to where we are today. Because the past 40 years, the unions of all walks of life have been fighting to get back the ground that they had 40 years ago. And in the interim, people have been doing shady shit. Studios were doing shady stuff, and the mentality towards unions in that interim time frame changed to the point where people just didn't appreciate them. They didn't have the leverage. If the unions that are all going on strike today had the leverage that they had years ago, you wouldn't have this happening. But that one instance where the executive got involved and basically threatened to fire everybody, that did decades-long damage to unions. And believe it or not, whether we're talking geek culture today, but a union is a union, and collective bargaining is a collective bargaining. So I really hope that this does not break one side, break for one side to the point where we're basically stuck in another 30 or 40 years, because you're going to have these things over and over again. And then it's going to become less attractive for a lot of high-grade people to do this profession. If they can't collectively bargain to be able to eat and, important, decent life, why not just go into something that has less leverage over them? Why not? You might as well just go be go be somewhere where you can make decent money to where you're get a better guarantee. You're going to lose your top tier talent. That's what I think unions provide. Stella, you popped in. I love. You got an avatar. Look at you. It's not just a black disc. So proud.
Yeah. Well, I just want to address some things that are flowing around the chat, and it's misinformation that you guys are dispersing. I really would appreciate it if you would stop that. And also, I want to address something from last week's show because someone said to cut all your streaming services. Do not do that. SAG-AFTRA has said keep your streaming services. Okay? Do not discontinue anything until you check with them on their website. Do not go with your gut instinct going, oh, yeah, I'll just get rid of all my streaming services. No, they didn't say to do that. And again, this is a contractual thing. You may not like unions, but guess what? We outnumber them. To address someone regarding the DGA, there's a lot less directors than there are actors and writers. That's why they came to an agreement.
I got another level of that. If you can bring that up real quick, Sade, that one question you got highlighted.
Which
numbers.
one?
Oh, the numbers one's the very first one you highlighted. Second.
Okay. I got it.
And
okay.
also, just one little thing. Dwayne Johnson donated a hefty sum to the actors' retirement fund, so that's supposed to help everyone that's on strike.
Wow.
High six, almost 7 digits. I can't quite remember, but it was a lot. It'll help a lot of the people that are on strike. And again, there's a lot more of us than there are of them. If they break this union, it's going to be hell, but it doesn't mean that the union's going to totally disband. But if they can hold tight, they'll be able to do something. Is it because technology hasn't advanced to the point where AI can't replace directors yet?
Ooh, don't. That's another stream. No. We don't need that. That's a headache. All right. Okay. On the numbers, your previous question, William, how come the studios are able to work a deal with the DGA and these, but we're willing to WGA and SAG? Along with Stella said, here's one other critical aspect of it. Many of your directors are also producers of their product. They're in that straddling area to where they are almost the people that they're negotiating with and against at the same time. Many of your directors, especially your big blockbuster ones, are the producers or the executive producers of their product. So those guys are already sitting at the table drinking wine and caviar already. They have the directors and the producers. There's a lesser gap in between those guys than there is between the producers and SAG and the Writers Guild. It's like a baseball coach. He's part of the team, but he's also part of management. And so there's the collective bargaining and negotiations between the two are going to be a lot different. Unfortunately, because it's a bad look in my. I understand that they took their best deal, but it does look out of that three-headed monster. It does look like one took, looked out for themselves, but they are anyway because they're literally part of the other side to begin with. If that makes any sense, so that's how best I can answer that question. All right, let's take some chat runs real quick before I jump into the next topic. Dave, next one.
First of all, here's our Streamlabs for donations. If you guys feel,
anything you can helps. Like I said, $1. It doesn't matter anything. Like I said, I am about to. Vince, I did get your link. I am looking up that OBS thing. I am educating myself. I am about to go full in on OBS and get all the bells and whistles and stuff that I want to have on the show. I'm investing. I got a brand new camera at the house. I got two. This camera we're looking on is brand new because the other ones were used ones. Better lighting, things like that. Just things that go into the show, so that it actually gets de-ghettofied and is on par with some of the other things that you guys see. So anything you guys can throw in help. Also, I'm in the process of getting getting equipment for to make things better and get things so Brad, I got Brad a headset that I got to send him. But things like that, just to help the show. I don't get rich off the show at all. I don't do this for a living, but anything that helps us progress the show up, it will help. So if you can, great. If you can't, just like and subscribe both the Point Extra Lounge or the Sci-Fi Center. You can see where you can go youtube.com/at the Sci-Fi Center, and you can go from there. So, all right. Okay, next one thing. Almost out of it.
Did you hear about whilst writers and actors are fighting for fair pay and working conditions, Disney has started hiring for a half a dozen AI job opportunities with salaries starting from $180K a year? Yes, I have heard about that.
I saw that too. And that's another sign that's like the studios aren't they're not backing down yet. They're prepared to go for the long haul.
And they openly are doing this. They're not even usually when we have these sensitive situations, they kind of like say the stuff, the quiet part in the quiet area. They just don't care at this point.
They've said the quiet part loud so many times this strike so far that they just do
not. That's what makes me think that this is going to last longer than it really should or needs to. I understand that we have things that need to be addressed. A strike was necessary, but when you have one side that basically just walk up to the podium at the press conference and say fuck them. I'm the next time I see those guys at a press conference, that's what I expect to hear from them. And those exact words, fuck them. Anything else? Anybody else got any questions? Fuck them. Yeah. Do you think what you're doing is fair? Don't.
Yeah,
don't.
I mean,
it doesn't have to be.
The sheer callousness is disgusting. And as 100%. Far as I know, they haven't even, scheduled any meetings. So this is going to go on for a long while, folks. So
and you know what? You know who's the guilty part of this? Consumers. Our lack of regard for the collective bargaining process and allowing it to be villainized, like I said, over the past 40 years, has allowed this. They know that they can basically get up there, drop their draws, and moon everybody without any consequences because they know where the consumer is at when it comes to the collective bargaining process. They know that most consumers are not as informed as they would need to be to have an appreciation for somebody that's going on strike. They think of the union as being spoiled brats, and when they think of actors, they think of like a Tom Cruise. They don't think about the guy in the back on the landing strip or on the aircraft carrier dressed up as a Navy corpsman or a flight deck guy that is working at Starbucks, and the biggest thing that happened to him is that he got that job that he's 2,000 feet away and may get a credit for it. That's
incidentally,
this guy is 87%.
Incidentally, a lot of people are spreading the wrong information too, like on YouTube and everything else. I mean, I've heard like 3 different groups going, all those actors and writers, they make too much money, blah 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 blah. Nobody really thinks about the working. Nobody really thinks about the common working actors and writers and stuff like that.
Yeah, we're not talking about the A-listers that you see constantly. We're talking about, extras / background actors. They're literally not even on the same show. They just jump from whatever production they could get to make money. How do I know? Because I actually signed up at Central Casting once. And I did it for a little bit. It's not easy. And, I wasn't getting vouchers or anything. I was just doing it to hang out with some friends that were doing extra work. It's not fun as one would think. But they're hardworking people. I knew someone that was an extra on Dr. Quinn Medicine Woman, and he managed to make a living doing that, but that's a long time ago. And again, you guys in the chat who you think know what's going on, you do not. Yeah, and again, my knowledge may be old, but I know what contract negotiations are. I've seen what goes into those contracts. And for the actors and the writers to be poverty-stricken at this point is wrong. There's no reason for it. There's plenty of money to go around. And again, to certain people in the chat, you have no idea what you're talking about. You really don't. You may say you have worked in the industry, but I haven't seen the proof. Now, again, you don't know me, but I kind of think I speak from a level of understanding that you don't have. And all you do is just keep giving out bad information, confusing people that don't know any better. And I don't know how you would look at yourself in the mirror in the morning and keep spreading lies and misinformation. I'm trying to help you all understand things, and you go on thinking that this is funny. It is not. We're talking about people with lives, with homes and families that they're trying to take care of, just like anybody else. And all you guys could do, oh yeah, I'm gonna play armchair CEO. Yeah, I know better than the guys that are making these movies. Yeah, that's what you sound like to me. Okay.
All right. Okay.
Could you say
Aaron,
it again?
yes.
Possibly, yes.
And not okay. So death, I think, would be too strong of a term. But here's the one: out of all the people that are the cause of this, I put Netflix in a different basket as the regular production companies for the reasons I've already stated. They're basically having to fight their war through those guys because they don't have the leverage, they don't have the other income. But um, it all depends on what kind of agreement is made, because the way they acquire content and the way they keep content and retain content is different than the other studios goes. They just don't have the revenue sources and ways to diversify their income and their streams as everybody else. I don't know if death would be it. I think it could severely change them in a way that is not positive. I'll leave it there. All right, next one, Faith. I'm gonna go through these and then we're gonna jump into some more fun topics.
Do you think the directors will now go on strike?
No.
The directors made a deal
No,
Yeah.
directors.
several weeks ago and came out of it. So
Again, they're a much smaller number, and they're closer to the producers than anything else. So
Well, it's like a lot of the directors, they have their own production companies too. So that's what kind of what William is getting at when he says, they're also producers too. They're, they come at it from a foundation, in the negotiations that the actors, the writers, they just don't have the same way.
I also want to make this very clear. Just because the major studios are being struck right now doesn't mean studios like A24 and some of the smaller studios aren't able to make movies. Any of the indies are able to make movies at this point. So we may not get anything from the major studios for the next year, but we're not going to be out of movies for the next year or whatever, however long this strike takes. A lot of actors are getting vouchers from SGA, SAG-AFTRA, to be able to do indie movies and stuff like that. So as long as it's not struck work, which is like the majors, I think there's like 5 studios they've struck against right now. As long as it's not anything from those studios, any of the indies can still make movies at this point.
Ashburn, I hope I'm saying that right. Hi, what's the difference between science fiction and science nonfiction? I'm new here. Okay, so science nonfiction would be something like Oppenheimer, where it's about science. Science is the core of the storyline. And yeah, there's some other stuff in there, but the creation of the nuclear bomb, that is not a fictional story. That is real. That is, there's no spoiler alert there. That is real. Now there are different interpretations of the Oppenheimer story, but it is science. It is science nonfiction. Science fiction is like Star Trek, where the stuff is theoretically possible, but as of now, it is fiction. The Thing, aliens. These are things that are theoretically possible, but they are not proven. Therefore, they are fiction, and they are left up to the interpretation solely of the author or the writer. Whereas science nonfiction is not. If you are going to sell a science nonfiction story, then it is real. I hope I explained that right. Okay.
Also, by the way, welcome Ashburn. Thank you for taking a chance on our show.
I hope I pronounced your name right. I think.
And as to tack on to what William was saying about Oppenheimer, if you haven't if you haven't seen it yet, there is I won't spoil anything, but there's a nuclear test in it that shook the theater. I saw that, so Nolan really went all out as far as depicting the creation of the bomb. I'll just kind of leave it at that for anybody who hasn't seen it.
People's faces melt off.
Oh God, yeah.
That's all I needed. And by the way, guys, before you put it in the chat room, before you ask, absolutely not have I seen Barbie. And as I look at my cell phone clock, never is what I'm saying. Don't ask me. Don't try to convince me. It's just not happening. I am glad that all of you hundreds of millions of people who made half a billion, I'm glad you all saw it. I'm glad you all enjoyed it. I am happy for you. I was not going to dude, Oppenheimer is 3 hours of a movie that I wanted to see. You think I'm tacking 2 more hours on to something I have no use for? So no, I just want to get that out of the way. All right, next one.
Do you guys think that this strike could possibly get some stuff canceled, like movies and TV shows, if it goes on so long?
Yes.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
Definitely.
Yes.
I'm tearing up at the prospect of my Blade Runner 2029 not happening. Even though I think Amazon has enough money to buy their own solar system, it may not affect. But there's going to be a lot of stuff. And don't be surprised if some of this major stuff, especially from Warner Brothers, especially from DC Films, doesn't happen. Not because James Gunn doesn't want it to happen or anything like that, but as these conflicts happen, and even if you get it resolved, things are going to be overlapped. Schedules are going to be coming into conflict and everything else. And also realize if they come to an agreement, certain studios come to an agreement that drives up the cost of certain things, you're going to get something drastically different than what they planned, or you may not get something at all, regardless to who announced it, where, what, and when. If they're greedy enough to dig their heels in and keep this going for anywhere between 6 to 8 months to 9 months, depending, then when they come back, they may cut some corners. They're gonna whatever concessions they give to the writers and the actors, that's not coming out of their pocket. Okay, that is not happening. That's getting cut from somewhere else. So, say for instance, if they decide, you know what, we'll give you your percentages, actors and writers. But you know what we're going to do? We're just not going to hire as many of you. We're not going to do as many projects. We're going to cut corners here, here, and here. They already screw effects houses. How many effects houses and special effects and CGI places go out of business after a major release?
And how many of them have to work their fingers to the bone to make deadlines, pre-strike, particularly for Marvel Studios.
Yeah, so for us comic book geeks that go to these comic book movies, I don't care who sat down and told you that what's coming and when it's coming. There's just so many things that can be thrown up in the air right now. I expect nothing right now. Anything that James Gunn has announced, that's great. That's great. Hope we get it. But the logistics of it and the people who were over him might be like, you know what? This strike, and even though they caused it, took a bite out of our ass. We need to find out. We need to get that bite back. And something's going to get sacrificed. And it's not going to be their golf cart. It's not going to be their bonus. It's not going to be their dividends. So where can you cut it from? The only way they're going to get it back is by either not doing projects, that they planned, not doing them to the extent that they planned them to, or just hiring less people. Unless the union works it in saying you have to hire a certain amount. And there's really nothing. You can't dictate how many projects a studio does. They can just say, you know what? We're going to cave when we want to, but when we do, trust me, everything that we've given up in this past 6 to 9 months, we're taking it out of somewhere, and it's not going to be their alligator skin volumes. So
okay, so again, let me make this very clear as well. Stuff that's already been made that's being delayed or whatever most likely won't get scrapped because the money's already gone into those projects. But if it's something that's on the table, like William said, like the future for DC, further Marvel projects, further Star Wars projects, whatever. Any of that could be subject to cancellation or being scrapped at this point. The problem that we're having right now with the writers and the actors and this whole strike that's going on is there needs to be a whole new business model produced because TV and movies and stuff aren't made the same way as they used to be. With the advent of the streaming services, you have shows going to 10 episodes, whereas shows used to be 22 to 26 episodes. So there's, not so much work in a shorter amount of time that things are getting produced. So with that being said, things have got to change. Actors aren't working so much, but that's not the main issue. The main issue is the studios still think they should be making money on the 26 episode uh, model, and they're only making money off of the 10 episode model. Plus, and this is just something that's generally true. I see people talking about this streaming service or that streaming service isn't making the studios money. None of the streaming services are making money at this point. They've all been redlined. So
Well,
that's another thing that they're fighting over as well. Go ahead, William.
and here's the thing, and I keep hearing people say that the streaming bubble is this or that. No, they when they first conceived these things, they made it a goal that they're going to get these things done. Disney Plus, all that. They knew there's a certain amount of time that they were going to take it right in the nuts. They knew that because they were all starting from scratch. Unless you were Netflix, they were all trying to catch up to a Netflix design that has already been in place for years. So they knew that they were going to take a certain hit. Now they were reported and be like, oh, we're taking this and that so they can raise prices, which was always their plan. But streaming, anybody thinks that the streaming bubble is bursting and that streaming is going to recede. I got some ice cold oceanfront property outside my door that I want you to rent right now. There's no way in hell that genie's going back in the bottle. The business model, and this is so important because, and this is why when people say that how can they spend this much, how can Netflix or these streaming services spend this much money on this, spend this much money on that, and justify it? There's no way they're going to go broke. No, they're not. Here's why. We're thinking about things in box office terms. So when I spend, if I'm Netflix and I spend $200 million on a project, you're thinking, oh, that's no way it's going to make that. They're going to go broke doing things like that. You're thinking box office terms, which do not apply with streaming. They never did and they never will. What you get from streaming, your revenue from streaming comes from the collective advantage of maintaining subscribers, not necessarily growth. Growth is great, but there's only so many people that can afford a streaming service in the world. There's only so many people in the world or in the nation. Eventually, you're going to cap out. Retention becomes the most important thing because when you retain, so if I'm pulling in 1.5 to 2 billion eventually on a streamer a month, I can go back to my stockholders and anybody who's purchasing stock and show them this consistency. That's what, and stockholders love consistency. They love predictability. And if I show them that, guess what? They buy more stock. I get more purchases. I get more dividends. That alone factors into hundreds of millions of dollars. So any massive amount of money that people are always saying, well, they can't spend that much money on that. That's ridiculous. It automatically gets justified by step number one. All right. Step number two is your lenders, the people who make it so that you don't have to come out of your pocket for money. Your legendaries and your companies like that get their money back on the back end. They're going to see that stability and be like, you're a good bet. We're going to finance this. And you also have, in the case of the studios, like the Paramount and the Warner Brothers, you can take that content and put it on any platform you want and charge ad revenue. So this is why they don't want to give up anything, because anything they give up percentage-wise cuts into that. Because right now, I've always said that most of these guys want to get these movies to these streaming services as soon as possible. Like The Flash. Remember I said a week before The Flash, I think The Flash is going to have a really short window regardless of how it does. And you can go back and watch the video. That's not just something I said because it bombed. Because mathematically, if a movie makes $1 billion, fanboys say, oh, you made $1 billion. You did great. If I'm the guy who's the studio, by the time I get that briefcase with my $1 billion in it, there ain't $1 billion in there. There's a lot of people at the table that got to eat. So with the streaming services, I'm putting that somewhere where I get the maximum benefit, the collective benefit from it. But if I start giving away percentages to actors and writers and everything, that cuts into what I'm trying to avoid. So the streaming bubble is not going away. And you can tell the fact that it's not going away because they don't want anything to affect their profit margin when it comes to streaming. It's why this is going to last a long time. So.
Well, and to go off of that, like one thing that I'm kind of expecting to be to emerge as much more of a focus in the strike is there is a lot of talk about the lack of transparency around streaming numbers as they relate to residuals, and that's the thing I think.
It's called lying.
Yeah, exactly. So that's something I think it will, as the strike goes on. It's like I'm wondering at like what point is that information going to become public, or is that just going to be like behind closed doors that's discussed? But one way or another, that's going to factor into the strike.
Rhea here makes a good point. She says lenders and stockholders can also pull money and split dividends so that the losses aren't 100% impacting their bottom line because they're diversifying their bets across multiple projects. And this is entirely true.
It's like insurance. Like I said, insurance. One project, The Irishman cost a crap load of money. It didn't make that money in the theater. But trust me, all of Netflix bore the brunt of that. And guess what? The prestige of that being nominated for all those Academy Awards, that a stockholder is going to be like, dude, Netflix knows what they're doing. Here's my money. But we think, and people, we use that fanboy logic. And trust me, math is undefeated. Math doesn't lose to guys who wear shirts like this. He doesn't lose to us. And the math is in their favor. Go ahead.
Rhea also says that's why people who invest don't just allocate all their funds to one company. They understand that markets and consumer behavior and trends shift. This is also very true.
Yep, I do it.
Also, I just want to make a point to the people in the chat that are arguing about the Blade movie. It doesn't fall entirely on Mahershala Ali.
No,
Kevin Feige,
none of it does.
Kevin Feige himself has said that certain projects are now going to be R-rated for Marvel because they're doing a Marvel Knights imprint for what they do for the Disney Marvel stuff that's supposed to be R-rated. So it's Kevin Feige's word that says that. The only person that can trump Kevin Feige is at this moment Bob Iger. So
it's probably best that Bob Iger not speak a lot right now.
Okay, so we got a couple more questions we got to get through, and we'll go on from there. Let's see here. Would a boycott of going to Universal and Disney theme parks help WGA or SAG or no? No, it wouldn't.
Nope, not at all.
Nope.
This is separate entirely from their studios. The theme parks pay for a certain amount. The studios pay for a certain amount. And here's the point that I want to make about Disney. Most of Disney's money every year is made from the theme parks, not from the studios.
Exactly.
So, yeah, they make more money off of the theme parks than they do the studios. People who put all the weight on the studios need to understand that that's not the case. They can take a loss in the studio all friggin' year that they want to. As long as the parks are making money, that's all that matters. They don't care. And when you're making $29 billion a year on parks and merchandise and everything like that, your studio can lose $4 billion and you don't care. This is why amounts like into the billions of dollars blow everybody's mind, because some of these companies take hits of billions a year and they just write it off.
Yeah, you write it off, or your lenders are like, you know what? Like Netflix. Netflix operates billions in a deficit, but they pull in so much revenue, their lenders are like, we're fine with you. All right, next one.
Hold on. All right, the next one I have. No. This one I just. Let me get rid of that one. Okay. Also, what's going to happen to the Oscars? It'll be canceled next year. I can assure you that.
Apparently, the Emmys are also getting like they're either delayed or they're not happening at all, something like that.
Yeah, I mean, they're just probably going to read off something.
I think they're going to be like the COVID ones where you just did it online. It's I don't even want to think about it.
Our new viewer tonight wants to know, what would you suggest for a sci-fi series for him to start with?
I mean, we
Star
Trek.
Trek.
You can go to the little standard with Star Trek.
You can start with Star Trek. See, Doctor Who. Doctor Who's another good one.
Oh, don't do that to him. Don't do that to him.
Dude, why would I do Doctor Who any less than Star Trek? Star Trek's just as old almost as Doctor Who. Come on.
But wow. Let's start them small. Fringe. It was a series by J.J. Abrams from 2008, 2011. Fringe, one of the better TV shows out there. Sliders would be another one.
Apparently we have aliens now, so maybe it might be topical and jump into X-Files.
Oh wow. The aliens are going to take a look at us and be like, just go ahead and blow this planet.
Dude, the aliens lock their doors when they run through our neighborhood, okay?
They're gonna say, let's just end these guys before they get space travel. Okay, so yeah, those are I would go with Fringe. You could start with Star Trek and Doctor Who, but that's a big ask. It's a lot to get into. But smaller series, Fringe, X Files. Even though X Files ran for 10 years, you can stop after season 4. Trust me. The season 4, 1 through 4, are some of the best science fiction ever produced. After season 4 of X Files, you can go ahead and drop it there. But I would start with 1 through 4. But there's a lot of good series out
Okay,
there.
so William, I got a couple of questions for you. Did you enjoy Oppenheimer? Because I haven't seen it yet.
Yes, I did.
Okay. Anything that you didn't enjoy about it? Was it too long? Was it? I mean,
Nah, it was everything that I don't like about Nolan wasn't in this movie. This is his best pacing he's ever done. He has horrible pacing for me. I have a hard time in keeping engaged in his movies. The length doesn't hurt the movies like the length hurts his other movies. Because if you've been through, for me personally, this is not majority, but for me, the length of his movies start to drag. Even the Batman movies, after a certain time, if there's not certain things going on, this movie starts to drag. This movie didn't drag. This movie, he was able to tell it in non-linear time, and that's not a spoiler because you can clearly see that how the story's being told from the get-go. I thought it was good. Like I said, every criticism I have about Nolan, he left it behind in this one. That doesn't make me a complete Nolan fan, but still, this particular movie lived up to it, and it uses graphic things unconventionally to tell a story. Certain visualizations and stuff like that. It uses sex to drive home certain points in a way that I haven't seen people banging used to drive home a point. I thought that I'm not going to spoil it, but it's there's a certain scene in the movie that I want to know how they shot it. I want to see the interview about how they shot this scene.
I think I know the one you're talking about too.
The one that they said was made practical.
There's no way. There's no way that can be that. No. Don't say it. Don't say it in the chat. I'm sorry. That's CGI. And if it's CGI, I can understand why it was. But anyway, that scene was not gratuitous. The nudity everybody was complaining about, there's no man junk.
Okay, so that wasn't true then. The man junk problem.
No, that was that
Okay.
was highly exaggerated.
Thank you, Chris. The nudity
And not fair.
Was that? Yeah, let's be unfair then. The nudity didn't fit what was going on. It was actually part of the storytelling, and like I said, that scene I just described without spoiling it, that was necessary in a way that's like that was very clever the way that was done. And like I said, if that was done practically, kudos to everybody who had to go through that because that was some shit right there. The violence, the bomb itself, the effects of the bomb itself, he either showed it to you outright in certain instances, whether it would be hallucinogenic or real, or the implication of it was done so that I didn't need to see it.
Okay, so do you think that Nolan unintentionally made a horror movie with this? Because a lot of people are saying that the implications are terrifying.
Okay, no, he did not. He depicted a horror that was already there. There's no way to accurately tell a movie about this subject without it being in some way horrific. And Fat Man, a Little Boy, and things like that, a lot of these ones that try to glorify it a little bit more because they're more actor-centric, that's fine. But if you are trying to tell, and this is why I think people got that from. I can understand where they're coming from because we usually don't focus on the horrors of what the nuclear weapon has done and what it did in those two instances. We don't focus on the morality of it. We don't, strategically or otherwise. We don't focus on the conversations that had to happen leading up to Oppenheimer and leading up to Hiroshima and Nagasaki. We don't talk about the aftermath. And if you do this, whether it's a casual conversation or in a movie, it's horror. So I don't think he made a horror movie. I just think he properly depicted the horror that is already there, where other movies have skirted away from it.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
Okay, so the next question, and this is the other half of the weekend, and I know you said you didn't see Barbie, but with as well as it's doing, do you think it'll cross that billion mark or not?
Yes, I said this all the time.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
because that's where I see it going. I mean,
and it'll do it without me. But I as soon as I knew that he was making this movie, and this is before they connected it to Oppenheimer.
Which, William, by the way, that I'm sure you would agree, because I had this when I went to go see Oppenheimer, is that the whole Barbenheimer phenomenon and such, that even if you're not seeing Barbie, you're still kind of a little bit in that, because I've never seen so much pink on display in a movie theater lobby as I did. I see it. I mean, you could almost to a person tell who was going to see Oppenheimer and who was going to see Barbie just based on who had pink.
And okay, for those of you crazy people who saw both, what order did you see this in to make this okay? What psychology made the doll and people's flesh melting off of their skeletons okay for one sitting? I mean, Oppenheimer thanks you, or Nolan thanks you, because I don't think there's a lot of those people who were not going to go see Oppenheimer. It's a long, boring, and not boring, but for me it wasn't boring. But you look at it from the outside, and you're like, oh, this is a boring, long 3-hour movie about, this and that, and then Barbie's this big flashy thing, and a lot of dirty jokes I hear, especially that there's a last scene that I'm not going to spoil it, but I haven't seen it. There's a last scene that, if it's true,
it is true. I've seen it. It is true.
I did not see this movie. I'm not going to see Barbie for free. It's not going to happen.
All right.
It's not my movie.
We'll continue on with the questions from the chat real quick. Well, first of all, Reyes says, I still believe all those studios like A24 pay their employees decently. The workers should unionize. It's insurance, and it's been shown time and time again that we can't hold companies on their word. The independent...
Got no dispute there.
Yeah, I'm not going to dispute that one.
All right.
Aaron says, oh, that's not the one I wanted to bring up. This is the one I wanted to bring up. Does everyone know that Disney has stopped producing physical media here in Australia? I had not heard that, but that's interesting.
They want to stop doing it here eventually.
Yeah, they just consolidating their production expenditures. That's all. They'll be back once this strike and everything is over and done with.
By the way,
it may take a while, but they'll be back. Don't worry about it.
Consumers, you have 100% control over whether physical media disappears. The most powerful people in the room right now aren't necessarily Bob Iger and David Zaslav. It's us. Physical media went away because we didn't desire it anymore. Bookstores went away because we stopped showing up to them. We control all of this.
And
so
to answer the question,
different,
the question in the chat, Deadpool is now in the MCU. Yes. Let's see here. Do you think professional wrestlers will have their own union after all this? Because I know animators are developing their own right now.
No. And the reason why professional wrestlers will never have a union, I could be wrong, but out of 40 years of watching professional wrestling and seeing how this has come about, there are certain tiers of wrestlers that are never going to want to give up what they have. There's no Rock out there. Like, as far as, I know he's a wrestler, but there's different tiers of wrestling, and everybody's fighting for their own spot. And to unionize and collectivize would harm those guys. They're not going to do that. And the voices that you would need to make that union powerful are just going to sit it out because they have a direct pipeline to ownership. They can get whatever they want without unions. It's the other people that the little guy, the mid-carders, but the problem is the mid-card is a mid-carder for a reason. In many cases, the top guys are the ones that draw a lot of the money that gets dispersed out to everybody. So I don't think you'll ever see a union there. I mean, I think it would be good for a union for healthcare reasons. I think a lot of guys will stop medicating and dying at 60 or younger. But at the reality of situations, I don't think so. Next one.
All right, we are caught up on the chat.
All right, so I'm going to bring up something real quick that I'm working on. I worked on a little bit over at Comic-Con as well. So like I've been bringing up and mentioning, I'm going to be doing some 5 to 7 minute shorts, and they are basically on comic book covers. They are the most important selling point to a comic book. I've known this from age 8 all the way to now. It can mean the difference of the product selling or not selling, regardless of how good or bad the story is. The comic book cover is the biggest selling point of anything that do in that industry. So I am going to be doing some shorts that are focused on that. And here's a little, 9-second intro to I'll show you. So it's called Cover Story. And the very first one I'm going to do is Amazing Spider-Man 323. This is one of my...
I had a feeling you were going there.
This is one of my all-time favorite covers. If you guys haven't been following me on social media, you know why this cover means to me. And it's signed. I got it signed by Todd McFarlane this last weekend when I thought I had zero chance of getting it signed. I got this signed, and I actually remembered it wasn't at the San Diego Convention Center that I got the sign. It was at the Omni. It was the last year that it was held in the Omni. So this was actually 30. I got this signed 30. So it's 34 years ago this summer by the same guy. So and I opened up my store in the mid 90s, and the worker sold. I had the entire Assassination Plot signed, and the guy sold them for a pretty good penny at that time. So I wasn't pissed. I was like, oh, damn. I'm thinking I'm going to meet Tom McFarlane a bunch of times. I didn't think it would be that long. I didn't think it would be that hard to do that. And it just didn't happen. Over the years, he just, there weren't a lot of cons out here at the time. And when I finally got near hwe ended up volunteering at the Amazing Comic-Con. And if you guys know that the picture I met Stan Lee at, that was because we were ushering him around. Because he was 94 at the time, and if you bump into a guy like Stan Lee, you could have killed him. And all the other volunteers were like gnomes; they couldn't do it. So me and another guy that was he was about 260. I was 245 at the time. So we had big bodies, and we can get through the crowd, and we can get them to where we needed to go. So he had a panel with Todd McFarlane. I started at Todd McFarlane's table. I had my books and everything in the thing, and it said, as soon as you're done, we're going to get him over here. He's going to sign your stuff. I had my back to him because we had no partitions. So while I have my back, he gets up and he goes to the panel. So I never got my book signed. So we went to Stan Lee's, and I wish I could show you. Well, I'll show you real quick here. If you can see up there, I don't know if the light will kill you there, but if you look up there, there's a picture of me and Stan Lee. And you see me wearing the Amazing Comic-Con volunteer shirt that I threw on because I gave my tickets to my customers because, they needed volunteers. So I went over to his table, and they were doing his pictures, and they were all crowding him, so I had to stay there. We escorted Stan Lee to the big platform, and if you go on our Instagram page from years ago, you'll see him sitting on there. And after that, he went out the back way and never got a chance. That was 6 years ago. So when I went with Trauma this year to go work their booth, I was not able to get any wristbands or anything like that. I couldn't, I was working, I was doing all kinds of stuff. And the line for Image and Todd McFarlane and Jim Lee was hellacious. I mean, but I brought my stuff anyway. And I kept trying to get in. And finally, they had a section of where if you were professionally working the con, they would get you in. And on the very last day, I got in. And I got my selfie. I think I showed you guys my selfie before with Todd McFarlane. But this is going home with me. But I only bought it here today so I could shoot the portion of the video that I'm going to use, because this is going to be the first one. But that was the fanboy in me. That was really all the stuff that was at Comic-Con. And I hope I put enough pictures out there for you guys to see. But of all the stuff that was at Comic-Con that I delved into, my captain shirt, all that kind of stuff, this was a highlight of my convention, only because it took so long. And like I said, I didn't get into any of these lines outright, and I wasn't. That one was wrapped around the entire midsection of the convention, and he had a lot of stuff going on. But got it done. So yeah, I keep an eye out. I hope to have those shorts out here in the next couple of days, because I've pretty much done all the other pre-production stuff. I just got to film a closing for it and then add some other stuff to it. But enjoy that when it comes out. So All right, so where are we? What have we covered? We covered the miserable strike.
We have one more question on the movie stuff before we move on.
Go ahead.
Numbers says, now I want all four of your guys' opinions on this, but how come Barbenheimer is such a success while projects have been failing or underperforming? William, we'll start with you.
Barbie is an IP that, for the most part, has never been produced to the public on this level. There's nothing to compare it to. There's nothing to conflict. There's nobody that's going to say that's not my Barbie, because there's never been one to this scale on the big screen. There's been other things, but nothing like this. Barbie is a IP that has, for the most part, been very, very inclusive, even amongst genders, races, everything else. It has not, because it has not been out in the zeitgeist as much as like some of the other projects that have failed. It hasn't been mismanaged. The other things that you're probably talking about have. DC Studios has been mismanaged. We've gone into that ad nauseum. Marvel lately has been mismanaged. And when you haven't had that mismanagement, now that's not to say that 4 or 5 movies down the line, the Barbie universe will not be mismanaged. But at this point, it's not. As far as Oppenheimer's part into it, it just got lucky. Oppenheimer is one of those movies that, if it wasn't for Barbie, probably would have made decent money, because it didn't cost that much to make, but it's not making anywhere near as much money as it did. It got caught up in the cultural phenomenon because it was two drastically different things. Someone thought it was funny to put them together, so people went along with it. But if any other movie besides Barbie gets released on the same day, Oppenheimer doesn't pull in that much money. Now, it's going to pull in some awards. Robert Downey Jr., unless I see a better best supporting actor performance this year, this has got to be his. This is the year. This is his best performance individually since Tropic Thunder. So Kurt Russell, whatever, this is his best individual performance since then.
And
he drives that movie. He's a son of a bitch movie.
And ironically, he lost that to a Nolan movie with Heath Ledger's performance in Dark Knight.
Yep. So this one's got to be his. But go ahead, guys.
Stella, do you have an opinion on this?
Well, those were the big summer movies. Again, different audiences and everything, and the appeal. Simple as that. And again, just because they don't do well in theaters doesn't mean they aren't going to do well on video on demand, streaming, and stuff. And again,
The Flash is making a shit ton of money. Sorry to interrupt. The Flash is making a decent amount of money on video on demand.
Yeah, well, everyone's like, oh, it has to make $1 billion. No, it doesn't. And it's just like, again, armchair CEOs at home. Guys, just keep it at your home. That's all I have to say.
People also have to understand there's more than just what it makes at the box office.
Yeah.
There's merchandising, there's merchandising, there's physical media, there's VOD, there's all sorts of things that you have to consider when it comes to movies making money.
There are other lines of revenue coming in, not just the box office. And again, a lot of other things going on that you guys aren't even aware of. So
that's why this strike is. That's why these studios are like, they know that where that other revenue is, and they don't talk about it as much as they
the whole thing with Zack Snyder's Justice League. Oh, they're just hiding the numbers. It turns out it's not only them, Warner Brothers, that was hiding the streaming numbers. It's just disgusting. And again, it's like anyone that says anything anti-union, I really think you need to reassess your outlook on life. Because if you're ever a member of a union, you know what goes through, when you're in one. And I always thought it was great when the manager is the one getting dragged into human resources, not the worker. Much more, how shall I say, fair and good treatment. Now that we're used to not having unions around, and all of a sudden fascism and authoritarian rule seems good to some people, which shouldn't be happening.
Even if you're not in a union, I'm going to put it to you guys, just as the average person who kind of looks at unions that way.
Mhm.
Even if you're not in a union, trust me when I tell you that your job, if it's not a union, is making sure that you never want one. In some jobs, if they're good, will do things to be like, you don't need the union. We're going to give this to you outright. If there weren't a union attraction there, they would treat you like shit. But because they don't want you going union, they're going to meet you a lot closer to what you would need at a job. And some good jobs are really, really good non-union jobs. But a lot of it becomes from the fact that they don't want, to give up as much as they would have to give up in a union. So they elevate it a little bit more. Like
I mean, I'll share a little bit. I used to work for Macy's Herald Square. I was part of a union. Like I said, it was really great when the managers are getting hauled in when something goes wrong. Because it's, the manager power tripping and just doing stupid stuff. When I moved out to California, even though I found out that the workers from Macy's weren't part of the union, they still kept union standards because they didn't want the grief of anything going wrong since, California had strong labor laws. So again, to the people that are hoping that they break the writers and the actors strike, I think you're wrong. They know what they're fighting for at this point. I don't know who the president was in between now and Reagan in the 60s. Those presidents of SAG-AFTRA and the Writers Guild, maybe they weren't fighting hard enough. But now they know what's going on, and they are now asking what they deserve. And again, this is coming out, after the COVID lockdown and the pandemic. We're still in it. Hasn't gone away yet because the cases in California are going up a bit. But after that, lockdown time where you get to reassess your value, it's very heartless for what the studio heads are doing.
Also, people aren't returning to the theaters quite as quickly as they used to, and
Yeah.
that's again outflow from the pandemic and everything else. I know a lot of people who used to go to movies every week that aren't feeling like going to the movies, and this is where the streaming services
Mhm.
are becoming more important. A lot of people are just willing to wait the 45 days or whatever for
Yeah,
it to go to VOD or for it to go to streaming.
yeah, because I remember, when I was a kid, when Star Wars came out, back then it took 3 or 4 years for it to get on network TV so you could see it for free. And that's edited with all the commercials in it, and they probably snipped off a bit for commercial breaks.
It also,
But
used to
yeah,
take 2 to 3 years to get a VHS tape too. So
mhm.
Well,
So-
you also have a movie problem with wages and everything else. Like I was saying before, if you have 3 movies that are really good movies that you want to see, you got a wife and 2 kids, and you're the breadwinner, or you're splitting the income between you, 2 of those movies may get eliminated simply because of the fact that you just can't afford to go to all 3
Yeah,
and take everybody with you.
it's too. I mean, to take your family out, I mean, that's $200 right there just for tickets and popcorn and soda. Forget
Yeah,
it if you actually went out and got a meal.
Yeah, the streaming bubble will never pop.
And to go off of that, with Barbie, being hitting $1 billion, as seems pretty much inevitable now. That'll be the post-pandemic. That's going to be the 6th movie that's hit $1 billion. To go back to our last pre-pandemic year, 2019. You look at the top 10 of that year. Out of the top 10, 9 cleared $1 billion. So we're definitely also having to factor in. It's like there have been some significant changes in terms of like theatrical, attendance post-pandemic, and that's definitely having an impact on. In addition to what William and Stella have said in terms of like mismanagement, lack of transparency with IPs such as DC, but also you factor in the economics of it and the post-pandemic economics of it.
Real quick to cover one of my spots as far as Secret Invasion. I love the first 5 episodes. They weren't perfect, but I was having a lot of fun with the series. I was having a lot of fun with the acting performances. I think this is Samuel Jackson's best overall Marvel performance. I loved the characters. I loved Talos. I loved Emilia Clarke's character. The development that they were doing. It did suck the fact that they are not further along in the MCU to use certain characters that would have made the story more sense. like the Fantastic Four, etc. Things like that. But they told this is the decision that they made. That being said, that last episode was horrendous.
It's not. The reaction has been pretty awful.
There's no reason for that. Take your time.
I haven't watched it yet, so I've heard that last episode was disappointing, though.
Yeah, they definitely did stick the landing.
And there's no reason for it. If you needed more time, take the time. If you needed more episodes, take the episodes. You spent a good chunk of money. I don't believe it was $212 million, but if they had to spend $212 million, they had to spend on what, for the way they advertise it, was a very important storyline that's going to lead into other things. The last episode insulted my intelligence. The last episode is basically told me for 5 episodes, you're kind of on the level you can understand what we're feeding you. Last episode, like, you know what, you're too stupid. We're going to cut these corners. That fight scene, and I won't spoil it for those of you guys who haven't watched it yet because it's only been a few days. That fight scene sucked. That was probably one of the worst comic book fight scenes I've seen in any platform. And it was so underwhelming. Everybody's resolution towards the end was so underwhelming. There was no payoff. And that's the problem. People were criticizing it during the episodes. And I'm like, I don't understand what you guys are watching. I'm watching some good political intrigue. But my criticism comes with the last episode. And I don't think it undermines the rest of the series as much as a lot of other people think. But it just wasn't good. That last episode sucked. So I'll leave that. That covered that. I know there was some questions in the chat about that. And I know that was on one of my bullet points. So far, we have covered the writer's strike probably longer than I want to. But there's a lot to cover there. We have covered Secret Invasion. And I did answer the question earlier on in the stream, does Comic-Con need Hollywood? And I answered that. My answer is absolutely not. Having been there this past weekend for the first time in a while, and the first time where there was not the madness there, I don't think it needs to. I don't think it needs it at all. To be quite honest with you, especially if they're going to keep it in that building, if they're going to extend the contract, which they most likely will, because some shady handshaking will happen and keep it in San Diego. But that's another stream for another day. I just think that the atmosphere was much more closer to the core thing. And people were, while we were there, say, well, Comic-Con has changed. It's never going back. I'm like, I think it could go back simply because a couple of different reasons. A, to be honest with you, I think the Hall H stuff is stupid unless you're going to narrow it down. Unless you're going to narrow it down to like TV shows and things like that. But when you're doing big, giant blockbusters, in the age of YouTube, where millions of people within minutes can get the word out to them. I am not a big fan of Comic-Con exclusive stuff or any particular thing being exclusive. And I was there for something that was supposed to be exclusive. And I was more than happy that you guys all got to see the exclusive episode of Strange New Worlds that I sat through. Because, yeah, there's 6,500 people crammed in a room. There's millions watching around the world, around this entire globe. What the hell good does it do me to show it exclusively to that amount? Oh, well, the word of mouth gets out. I'm like, you know what tells the story better? People seeing stuff. People talking about stuff can only get you so far. People seeing it for themselves and us getting excited in unison will give you more goodwill. So I've never been a fan of that. I've never been a fan of making Comic-Con the destination point of all that. So there's some things that have changed since then. When all this mess started, we didn't have, D23. We didn't have a lot of these other platforms and other places to go. And some of these studios are going to look at the expense that they put into Comic-Con and look at how much reach they have. And they're probably going to start doing a lot of these things on their own. So I think the strike will help all this, is I don't think you're going to have a concentration of exposure in that one place. When, like I said, since the Twilight thing happened and the fire marshal had to shut everything down because there's too many people and they're limited, we've developed our not only our streaming services, we've developed things to the point where, like I said, I can get whatever I'm sitting in Hall H, I can get it right here. You literally, everybody who's in the Star Trek got what they needed to know about what they were putting up about Star Trek about 10 minutes after I did. And did I feel like I'd been cheated? No. That's a good business move. So I think that, especially if the strike goes, not strike, but the ramifications overlap into 2024, I think you might see another Comic-Con like it is now. And to be honest with you, it was just better. It was just better. A lot of those people who come to Comic-Con are not coming for the core things that built Comic-Con. And you do not have the facility to pull it off, which is why it's so hard to get tickets, why it's so hard to get into certain things, why it's so hard to move around. Well, that's why when you scan in and scan out, that's why, because there's only a certain amount of people can be in the facility at any given time.
Well, that's why I think that they should go ahead and just like studios should do like what Netflix did this year or did the last couple of years, that to dumb thing.
If you want to, that got it kicked off.
Yeah, but you have to admit though, it was a good thing that they did.
Yeah,
and I think studios should do that. I mean,
Netflix was not there, by the way. Netflix was not there.
Yeah, and but that's my thing though. Like, I think that they should move all of like the Hall H stuff to like do another con with it, or take all of your stuff to YouTube or whatever.
They should turn the WonderCon into the movie one, because that's the thing that that group does that doesn't get a big crowd. So they should move the movies to WonderCon and keep Comic-Con with comics.
Hey guys, just want to go ahead and say, I mentioned I need to go ahead and jump off a little bit early tonight, but hard times with the strike, but it is what it is, and we're just buckle up, everybody, because there's definitely going to need to be a evolution of the industry, that needs to be more equitable to all parties, as far as SAG, as far as WGA, as far as everybody, and everything's still as said tonight as far as people having day jobs while they're still working on these productions. It's spot on. So, this is it's very much a necessary evil, to strike.
Yeah. Take it easy, Brad. You have a good night,
man.
Be
have
safe.
a good night.
All right, take care. Bye.
All right, so let's hit some more questions, and I'm gonna jump into.
I've got two more questions here. One, we have numbers here. Says William, Thade, Brad, have you seen the Saw X trailer yet? I have not seen the Saw X trailer yet, William.
No, I have not.
Nope.
It came out today, so we might talk about that next week.
I saw the movie poster, but I'm like, that's gross. All right.
The movie poster's weird, but
the eyes.
Yeah.
I'm hoping that's not fluorescent tubes into that thing.
It isn't. It's looks like tubes to like put liquid in a person's eyes or something.
Oh, okay. Stop. Next question.
Reyes says, William, are you going to see Ninja Turtles, and are you doing promos for it?
Am I?
Uh-oh.
Looks like we got some William promos.
He couldn't go grab something and show it to us. Ooh.
Go see Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles August 2nd, only in theaters.
Turtle power. Yay.
I won't be there.
It looks interesting. I've seen some of the promotional stuff from it. It looks interesting. I may watch it just as a lark because I haven't really watched much animation lately, but I may watch it.
Fun. I mean,
I saw what's his face's short that he did for you.
We had our screening this morning, and that's where you eliminate me. If it's happening in the AM, for the most part, I won't be there. But no.
Understandable. You are not a morning person.
Yeah. We had our screening. We gave away posters and stuff, and we also gave away these. These are mainly for little kids. I have them in different colors. I have a whole bunch of these in different colors. So there
awesome.
You go. Yeah. If you look at our Instagram, I have people when you came in to get here. I made you pose with these. So yeah, go see Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle. The next one we're doing is the Meg. They're gonna do a poolside screening of that this coming Wednesday. I got to put the ad up for that.
Ew, big shark movie.
What's up?
Big shark movie.
Yeah, it's gonna be ridiculous. It's probably gonna suck, but in a way that's more fun than anything. And then the next movie after that is The Last Voyage of the Demeter, which is basically Nosferatu, the ship voyage. So we'll have.
The Voyage of the Demeter.
Yeah, there you go. But yes,
that looks cool for like a Dracula. Interesting story.
It says Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. So Ray, I have you. Next time you're in Vegas, there you go. And I got them in green. Oh no, purple, orange. Hold on.
He's probably got them in all the colors that the Ninja Turtles wear.
I have more than I could ever ask for. There you go.
Ah, see, you've got all the colors for all the turtles.
Yeah, all the colors for the turtles.
Yeah. So there you go. And by the way, I saw him at Comic-Con. He was there too, Kevin Eastman.
Oh, was Laird there or Eastman?
No, I just Eastman. I don't
just
think Laird
Eastman.
does conventions anymore.
Okay,
right,
so Rhea just had a comment here. She says, I go to cons for the energy of being around people excited for the same weird, geeky things as me. That's why I hang out in chats all the time. Lol.
Yeah, and it's like I said, it was good for me to be around. You know, like I said, here in Vegas, I'm a weirdo, but there I was tame. I was not the weirdest thing and the geekiest thing around. I wasn't even on the radar. But just being surrounded and just being near, and the Star Trek panel was like that. I was in the room with, like I said, Old Trek fan was there.
Mhm.
Old Trek fan was there. I don't know why Old Trek fan was there, because Old Trek fan, this is all about things that are not old. And soon as that musical came
Speaking
out,
of that, are we
Yeah.
going to talk about the episode from this
yeah,
week?
we can. Some people cheered, but you could hear amongst the majority of the cheers, Old Trek fan was grumbling, boy.
I bet.
Like I was looking for, I was seeing if there's going to be any red mist from the heads just exploding, but you know, for the most part, a lot of even Old Trek fan I'm finding, even if he doesn't admit it out loud, I can see, because I was talking on the line while we were heading to All H to guys who are adamantly just old, you know, just they shouldn't do this, they should do that. But when we started talking about Strange New Worlds has a lot more crossover with Old Trek fans than a lot of them will admit. Because they enjoyed that episode.
The Strange New Worlds is getting to them then. Good.
Yeah, which is, like I said, cool.
This is the number says Thade and William. Apparently, the trap with the tubes from Saw X involves the victim to either choose to break all of their fingers or have your eyes sucked out.
Joy.
Oh, oh my. That's unique.
Mm. If you can tell, I am not a fan of horror. Those two are.
I can
They're
watch
not.
anything get mutilated and torn out and dismembered, but when it's the eyes or the genitals, I don't want to. I just don't. Those are just the parts. I just leave those parts alone. You can rip off a finger. You can take off a head. If you disembowel, I don't care. But when you start messing with the eyes, that's when it becomes true horror for me. I can't watch it. I think there's stuff that goes on, you know, in movies that happens, and I'll miss that scene because I'm like, oh, dude, you're about to do something to his eyes. Oh man, I'm out of here. You know?
So William, are you one of those guys that, like, when you have longer hair, if you're getting your hair cut, if you see the edge of the scissors near your eye, do you like cringe? Because I do that. It's
I don't get they use a razor for me, so yeah, I never had long hair, so I can tell you.
I hate scissors, man. I hate scissors.
Question about the panel. For Subspace Rhapsody, were they going to release the music before the airing of the episode?
It's out.
Because we looked for it last night and we couldn't find it.
Yeah, I couldn't find it.
They're saying
They're
saying August 4th.
Yeah, to pre-save and stuff.
They gave us a link to something, but they put it up on the screen. Hold on. Because they gave us that, and then we got to go run like animals to go get the poster that they could have gave us. Could have gave us that poster at Hall H, you mofos. You know how much space we had to cover.
No, I didn't do it.
It's like Las Vegas Convention Center. I would have died trying to traverse that. But you're talking about getting from Hall H, where you automatically have to go to the security maze and all this stuff. You have to go outside and come around, and it's 100,000 people there. You got us all there. You could have just had the posters on our seat, or for that presentation, everybody get one on their way out the door.
Yeah.
No, you're telling us, oh, by the way, this is a cool ass poster. Stop over to our booth that we've all already been to, because all of us hardcore guys went straight to that Star Trek because it was a kick-ass booth. We've already been there. That line was long as hell to begin with. So now you're telling us to run because there's a limited amount. I had to not run. We had to go all the way out, come out, get in that long ass line, and then the guy monitoring the line is like, "Where'd you guys come from?" Well, he told us to come over and get our posters, and he was like, "Oh no!" And then they started giving them to us at that point. Somehow, some people in their 70s, and if you're watching this show, people in your 70s, you know who you are because I talked to you. how the hell did you beat me? I don't know what passageway you used, but I arrived at the line panting and out of breath, only to see you two there laughing at me. With your posters, by the way. And I got the posters, and I got one. It was pretty cool. They'll probably be available everywhere, but it was cool. I mean, it was cool. It was a nice poster. I'm getting it framed. I don't know if it's going to be widely available, but you also got another poster at the booth. I mean, what's the whole Strange New World poster, which I think I took a picture of. It was really nice. But yeah, it was yeah, man. I'm like, you could have just given us that there. I mean, Shatner was there. Nobody was staying. Shatner came on a couple hours later. Nobody stayed for him. Because he wasn't talking
about his new book or something. Yeah.
You know. Where is it? There it is. Right here. Maybe it's not available. Preview.
Yeah, because when I brought it up, it said, you know, pre this, pre that, but we couldn't get into it.
I don't want to push play. Hold on, I'm going to mute myself real quick. Okay, all the previews, you can click on all the previews, but there's no full songs. But all the previews are there.
Okay.
Yeah, I listened to some of those last night.
Okay,
yeah, everything's pre, but we can't get into it to learn the songs before the show.
Yeah, because I want to do my sing along.
Yeah, we were trying to learn the song. But what I'll do is I'll have Vince put the closed caption up next week so we can see it.
It's gonna be hilarious. I'm gonna do a live action Rocky Horror type show of that once it's done. But yeah, that episode, like I said, the Star Trek panel was, like I said, that was my very first time inside of Hall H. When I was there before, I avoided it like to play because it's a pain in the ass. This year, you saw my video, we just walked in and they were clapping for us. All the employees were clapping to see us again. I'm like, damn, I'm a nobody, but hey, I'll take it.
Yeah, nothing like the intimacy of a room that holds 6,000 people.
Yeah, and like I said, I thought we were gonna be like, nobody's respecting Star Trek this year because none of the other bullshit is here. Okay, that's fine. I'll have all this space myself. So I went in and got the closest you could get because Paramount had the other side. Paramount and ADA and all and the hearing impaired, they had one side. So I sat as close as I could to the side that I could get to. So that was the best seat I could get, the best seat you could get in the house. So I'm sitting there and I'm looking around. So I'm taking pictures, all the pictures you guys saw. And I step away. Some cats, and I caught them in my picture. Tried to take my seat.
Yeah, you got to put something down on the chair if you get up.
My coffee was there. My coffee was on the chair with my name on it.
Oh, I don't care how old they are. I would have knocked him down.
He moved my coffee.
No.
And sat down. I'm like, excuse me.
He doesn't know the etiquette.
Yeah. And he's like, oh, I'm sorry. Are you sitting here? I'm like, yeah. He's like, and I'm like, and I try to tell him, like, dude, don't worry. There's plenty of seats. As I turned my head, and that's where I took the selfie, there weren't.
Exactly.
There's I'm like, where did you people come from? Because we got in the line quickly. There was no, you just walked in. It was so un-Hall H like. But yeah, he got another seat. In fact, he got another seat right behind me. I'm like, dude, don't touch my coffee, motherfucker. But that was fun. But
the unwritten rules is if there's something on your chair, it's taken, and he should have at least asked, is that seat taken? But I don't know.
The screen, because it was rotating out to where it had the Star Trek logo on it. I wanted that, not the Comic-Con logo. So I'm waiting, and then and out of the corner of my eye, I'm like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Like,
oh yeah.
But yeah, the episodes were great. This last episode, I don't, like I said on the watch along, I don't know how I feel about Mbenga and them. Not because of what they went through. What they went through is real. It's realistic. There's no doubt about that. And what they did was real. I don't know as far as the Mbenga Pike relationship, and we know it lasts beyond this because Mbenga's on the ship doing the pilot. So he just basically outright lied. He murders an ambassador amongst other people. Apparently he's Jason. He murders an ambassador, and then just outright lies. Yeah, Pike knows he's lying. So how does this work?
We'll find out.
Well, okay, so this is not. There's not. There's a precedent for the fact that Pike will protect his officers.
Hmm.
I mean, he lied for Una.
Yeah,
I don't agree with it,
Yeah, I mean,
but I'm
what he
saying
did
there's
to protect
precedent for
Spock
it.
during Discovery.
He
I
protected
mean,
Spock. I mean, he's done
yeah.
it before. He's got a precedent for lying to protect his crew.
Hmm.
he has a precedent of lying to protect them, but not only him being killed the guy, but he outright lied to him. Now, whether Pike has to lie to protect him from this point on, of those transgressions, what Mbinga did was way more. And not only that, you could trust Spock, you could trust Una, even if she lied about that. She'd already proven himself. I can't trust Mbinga not to fucking kill somebody again.
Only if he's triggered.
Okay, but he's that's like saying the Hulk only when he gets angry. I don't. If I'm your commanding officer, dude. You got to be relieved of command. I can't. I don't know because if you go and kill somebody else again, and I have this, and I suspected that you just boldfaced lied to me about shanking a dude who's there on a mission of peace. I don't know. I just don't know how to. I'm pretty sure that they'll work it out.
Mm.
I mean, I trust the writers of this show, but I'm like, everything else I was on board with. Everything else, being in the military, I recognize a lot of that stuff. I know medics, a lot of that stuff, but I know the stress that it plays on them. And so everything that happened during the episode was very realistic and very appropriate.
Yes.
The relationship that between those two, and then her lying.
Hmm.
These are senior officers basically just outright lying. These are people you have to trust. They built it, I don't know. I just don't know how I feel about how that episode wrapped up yet. Jury's still out there.
Yeah, I went back and watched the first episode just to see Chapel and Mbenga's actions back in that, and now knowing how deep their relationship goes, it's interesting. That's all.
Yes, I liked Oppenheimer, Anthony. I'm just looking at it. Of course I liked Oppenheimer.
Mm-hmm.
So let's go into which should be the most fun. Well, let's go into apocalyptic stuff. All right, so back in 1995, this series was released on my first full year open. After Fatal Attractions, X-Men had a good spike in sales for a while. Then 1994, it kind of didn't, and in the end of 1994, going into 1995, a storyline that one of those storylines, and you'll hear me bring these up when I say that changed things. X-Men, Age of Apocalypse changed the entire industry for a very long time, and like I said, it didn't have as many immediate effects, ground-shaking effects that it does today, but it did. So let's go ahead and bring that up. All right, so Age of Apocalypse, there are the issues, the core issues right there. There's X-Men Alpha, and these are chromium covers. X-Men Alpha and X-Men Omega were the beginnings and the ends, and this was a chromium cover. That was back in the mid 90s where everything was chromium cover. But X-Men Alpha was one of the main major company comics that did a chromium cover. Chromium covers were being done by Valiant Press and Chaos Comics and things like that to get you to buy the indies. X-Men, they generally didn't do it because they printed so many more books that it was much more expensive. But this was a big event. So X-Men Alpha is what started the actual series. And then you had each X-Men series broke down into a different alternate title. The actual X-Men title became the let's bring them up. I'll bring up a different we'll go with this. Here we go. I have a screen that has them all. So all right, so the Uncanny X-Men, if I became the Astonishing X-Men, the actual X-Men title became where's that? Weapon X was Wolverine. The Amazing X-Men. So Uncanny X-Men and actual X-Men, the one that Jim Lee, Chris Claremont started in the 90s, became Amazing X-Men. Weapon X was Wolverine. Generation Next was that actually oh, fuck, why can't I remember what that title was? But it was a Chris Bacalo title, and that's what he did. And you can see the X had broken. The symbol for this was of the beginning symbol before you see that X that's down there. It was a wheelchair being knocked over because it was Professor X being killed by his own son by accident. David Haller goes back in time to try to kill Magneto. If you don't know who he is, Legion, he's a schizophrenic. I mean, he's all kinds of mixed up. And he goes back to the 60s to try to kill Magneto before he becomes what he's going to become. Unfortunately, he accidentally kills his father. And by killing Professor X, he creates an alternate timeline in which Professor X does not exist to become the X-Men. Or to create the X-Men, to be what he is. And Apocalypse becomes the dominant force. Hence the Age of Apocalypse. All right, Age of Apocalypse, in a twisted version of the world they knew. The X-Men battle against the eternal mutant Apocalypse as Bishop seeks to repair the timeline. Now, Bishop was the only one who knew about the original timeline because, remember, Bishop came from an alternate timeline. So he was just back there in time when they were trying to stop them. So since he was time displaced, he knew that this is what he kind of like guided, but he knew that this was not supposed to be. And he was the only one that could help fix it. He was the only one that could make them aware that it needed to be fixed. All right, Legion, Xavier's own son, attempts to kill off all of Xavier's enemies. However, when Legion attempts to murder Magneto, Xavier sacrifices his own life to save Magnus. As a result, Magneto casts off his anti-human sentiments and carries out Xavier's dream of a peaceful coexistence, thereby founding the X-Men. So everything, like I said, changed from there, and they stopped the comics that were being produced. So X-Men, I think X-Men was on like 26, 27. Whatever issue each mutant title was on, it stopped for 4 months, and it was replaced by these. So Uncanny X-Men, your next month, it was amazing. So for 4 months, the entire mutant family was in this reality. It's never been done like that before. And it really hasn't been done effectively since then. And we're talking almost 30 years later. All right, let me bring up I have another window that brings up everything. So let's go ahead and stop that screen. Share this screen. And we're going to go into this data. I'll get with you. We're going to go into this one in detail. Right now, there's no way I could give this justice in the time that I have now. We're going to do a Sci-Fi Center Presents. I know I've been saying that about everything, but I am going to get down to getting those. But this one deserves and warrants.
This is probably my favorite storyline from the 90s for the X-Men.
All right. So, wow. All right. So these are the lead up. Am I on the screen? I just got to make sure I'm up there. Okay, there we go.
Yeah.
These right here are the lead in comics. So we start with X-Men, the X-Men at number 38. It's starting to lead into it. X Factor 108, and then Legion Quest is the story that leads up to it. It started in X Factor 109. Then it crossed over in X-Men 319. Then X-Men 39, Andy Kubert cover, by the way. And then Legion Quest again, and X-Men 320. And then Legion Quest 2. This is probably one of the more famous covers. And when I do my cover story, this is going to be one of the ones that we do on here. And then it goes over into Uncanny X-Men 321. And as you can see, Legion Quest Part 2. Legion Quest is the story that leads right up to it. And these right here, I'm showing you them in order. And Legion Quest number 4. Legion Quest number 4 and Cable number 10 came out at the same time. What happens in this episode, or this issue, is this is where Charles Xavier is killed. Now, he's not in the Magneto outfit. This is one of those cases where the cover is symbolic. This is not the way it looks in the comic. And Cable 4 was like a prologue. It's in between what happens here because the MCON crystal, which it starts to encase them, starts to eliminate that reality because of something drastic has happened, the death of Xavier. And the MCON crystal will come into factor again because it's what they use to reverse it. The entirety of the Age of Apocalypse is not only fighting Apocalypse and his four horsemen, but trying to find that crystal because that crystal is the only thing that can reset the universe back to, it will help Bishop get back to where he needs to do to stop Legion from killing him. All right. And this is the actual comics themselves, like Generation X, Astonishing X-Men, Gambit, and the Externals. But like for the most part, all of these are X Factor was Factor X, Excalibur was Excalibur, X-Man was the only one of the only ones that was created explicitly for, because in this universe, all the experiments that became Cable, Nathaniel X's, which is Mr. Sinister, he's working for Apocalypse here. Um, they come about in a different way. So instead of Cable, he's using because there was nobody there to stop him from getting all the DNA that he needed. He ends up creating Nate, which is basically that universe's that universe's uh, that universe's Cable. I'm looking something up here real quick. Okay, Earth 616, and Earth 616 is what was our original universe that we started out here with. All right, so yeah, Generation Next, Excalibur, Gambit. Okay, cool. So you can see all these, and like I said, these are all the issues that ran through that whole thing. Generation Next would end up staying around. X-Men would get his own series. What ends up, and these covers are amazing in all of these. Blink, which was a character that was killed during the Phalanx Company, she comes back in this. These came her Blink that came out later. X-Men Prime was something that came out right after, but these are all the books. Now, if you looked at these are books, The Return to Age of Apocalypse, these are books that they're still putting out, and that storyline came out. Now, Worley has one of the major ramifications. Last week we talked about the Mutant Massacre. The Mutant Massacre had a big ambiguous roles and beginnings and motives, but what it was is they thought, Sinister wanted to, to kill an offshoot race of mutants because they thought, they wanted the survival of the fittest. They retconned it, and one of the characters in Age of Apocalypse was the Dark Beast. The Dark Beast exists in this time. And Sugar Man, a lot of these characters, X-Men, when the universe, they solve the problem and the universe is collapsing, these people came over into our universe. And since the problem started in the 60s, that's where they settled. So the Dark Beast settled in the 60s and he changed time. So he created the Morlocks. And since our Nathaniel Essex, our Mr. Sinister, recognized his work, he's wondering what the hell. And that's why he uses Gambit to find the Morlocks and to wipe them out. One of those dumb retcons I didn't think they needed to do. But there are characters that came over that were forever changed. Blink was one that was restored. You had Holocaust, which was one of the Horsemen, and then several other characters that came over that had ramifications. But this was at the time, we're talking 1995, to stop your books, not just to do a crossover where they just put the title on the book and said Extinction Agenda Part 1, Part 2, like they had done before. This grew from the Mutant Massacre, from Fall of the Mutants, from everything else. They had gotten to a level with the X-Men and the Fall X-Men crossovers that this was the next step. And no other comic did it this way. I don't believe any other comic has done it this way since. Babe, you said this was your favorite story.
Yeah. Grabbing a couple of picks really quick. Hold on.
Okay.
Okay. Now let me throw these up on our Twitter thing so I can take it to the computer, because I'm having to do this from my phone.
I was going to pull up separate ones, but I just couldn't. I couldn't find the group of ones that articulated my point.
Yeah. Well, for some reason, I can bring up my DC Universe Infinite subscription on my computer, but I can't bring up my Marvel subscription on my computer. So it's on my phone. So I'm pulling like panels. Now, let's see here. Here we go. Now, here's like 3 different iconic panels from like the Legion Quest story before the Age of Apocalypse. One of the coolest scenes in that whole series, in the whole Legion Quest, is like in the 3rd part of Legion Quest. At the very end, Lilandra comes to talk to Professor Xavier, and he's like, "Well, you know, why are you here? This has nothing to do with y'all. This is a planet. This is an Earth thing." And Lilandra says, "No, you don't understand. This has become intergalactic. This has to do with the Emcron crystal, and this is done because of the Watchers. The Watchers have sent me to do this." And the picture is staggering because you only ever see Uatu, the one Watcher, but she shows up with a whole squad of them. Just, boom, just like, "Hello, we're here to fix this."
Yeah, and that's how they learn what they need to do.
The next picture I have is, this is the shot where Legion, as he's charging on Magneto to kill him, Xavier gets in the way and he accidentally kills his father. That's another iconic shot from Legion Quest. And then the third one I have is, because this happened and it broke because of the Emcron crystal, everything was crystallized in the main universe. So everything stopped and died. And then it shifted into this alternate universe. So that was some iconic shots from Legion Quest.
My favorite part of was at the end of it when him and Magneto, Apocalypse Magneto, have the final fight, and Magneto's having to concentrate so he can get control of Apocalypse's body, and he rips him down the middle.
Let me see if I can find that panel. Hold on.
I remember Magneto said, "Who's the mightiest now?" I'm like, it's like the last page of I think it's X-Men Omega.
Yeah, it is. Hold on. Yeah, Apocalypse is acting all high and mighty, and Magneto just shreds him. Dude, there were so many deaths in X-Men Omega too. Like, because they were all like charging Apocalypse's citadel. Like, there's one sad scene where Colossus, where his sister gets killed, and Colossus like freaks out and charges, and he accidentally kills his wife, Kitty. You remember that panel?
Yeah, and they're all about to die because they all know that they have to die. They know that the universe is.
And this whole thing, while they're assaulting the Citadel, the human High Council from Europe is about to drop nukes all over the United States to wipe out Apocalypse and his people.
Yeah,
so you have that coming in the background, you know. It's crazy. There we go. Found it.
Oh, real quick while you're doing that, you know what? To be honest with you, Barbie, a movie I can't stomach to go see just based on the previews and everything else, is going to make $1 billion. I'm going to assume that I think substance-wise, The Flash, had it been managed properly, could have easily, you know, there are movies. If Captain Marvel, which is a medium grade movie, made $1 billion, it's all about management. Now, you predicting 300 million is because you're a pessimist. You don't think any movie's going to make any money. You think that, you know, it should all be for free on streaming, but no,
there's the picture you were talking about.
Yeah, it's I love that shot. Remember what he says? I can't read what he's saying afterwards. Thing.
He says, "For 20 years, you've gone on and on about how only the strong survive. Tell me again, Apocalypse, just how strong you are." And he goes,
Yeah,
and then he goes, And then he
Yeah.
goes, "We were the mightiest of our race, Apocalypse. Suppose we'd been on the same side. What a world that would have been."
Which is a question Professor X always asked him.
Yep.
So
And we finally see the culmination of that during the Krakoa era, where Apocalypse shows up and bends the knee to both Magneto and Xavier. And he
yeah,
says,
because
"You."
together.
He says, "You guys finally understood what I've been trying to say this whole time about
Yeah.
survival of our own race."
All right, let's see. All right, we're about to wrap it up. Let's go ahead and hit this. I think I hit all my bullet points. Woo! I did it. Let's
Yes,
go ahead
we
and hit
did.
them.
I've got a couple more questions here. Hold on. First of all, Larry says they should do an animated movie of Age of Apocalypse. That would be cool if they did it right.
As long as they do it in the modern era, please don't give me that X-Men 92's trash. All right. If you're gonna do Age of Apocalypse, do it X-Men style. I don't need a kid's version of that. All right.
Well, they already did it. They already did the kids version of it in the animated series in the 90s. They did a 2-part episode called One Man's Worth. Remember that?
I've done everything I can to forget that series, but do it the way that they did the Dark Knight Returns.
Yeah.
The way DC animation did the Dark Knight Returns. If you're gonna do Age of Apocalypse, do it in that vein. If you do it X-Men 90 style, just don't even waste the time. Because that storyline is very dark. It's very depressing. And you're talking about culling. You're talking about bringing up a lot of references. That is not for kids. But then again, X-Men wasn't for kids, and you guys did that. So, but no, if they're going to do an animation one, do it in modern animation style and without modern animation tone, and don't compromise with it. So I would love to see it, but only if they could do it in that vein.
Number says, "What would you three like to hear from the UFO press conference hearings that would absolutely leave no doubt in your guys' minds that they prove the existence of aliens or extraterrestrial life?"
I already believe that they exist.
Yeah, I already believe they exist. Although it would help if they had clearer pictures. Just those fuzzy things that they keep showing us.
Well,
I would like to hear them say that we know that you're not all represented by some of what we've seen. We're not going to wipe you out.
Yeah. A lot of what I hate about these disclosure hearings is they come on and they're like, "Well, yeah, it's not human and it's unusual," but they won't just straight out say it's aliens. You know what I'm saying? It's like they're like, "Well, it's unidentifiable," and it's like they're dancing a sidestep.
Yeah, even Neil deGrasse Tyson said, well, non-biological human also means, animals, plants, and other things. And I'm just like, oh, that's not what we're talking about, dude.
Now, do I believe that there are extraterrestrials? Of course I do. We have an infinite span of cosmos out there. It's stupid to believe that we're the only one that built life. Now, there's a lot of scientists that are trying to say that we're unique in the universe. We just happen to happen at the right time and have the right setup. No, guys, come on. And there's other forms of life besides carbon-based life forms. I mean, there could be anything out there. There's so many exoplanets now that we found. I think there's like 10,000 exoplanets we've found over the last 20 years.
There could be
so much going on.
We're probably the dumbest thing in the universe.
Well, and that's what I said earlier. They probably lock their doors as they drive through the neighborhood. You know what I'm saying? Like
anything, they're listening to our broadcast, watching our TV, eating popcorn, going, God, these humans are crazy.
Yeah, let's make sure that they never leave their planet. Let's sterilize them.
Well, here's the thing, the thing about, we've known, like Creed Fan Forever here says, we've known that extraterrestrial life has existed since the earliest days of our ancestors who wrote about them. Look at how many ancient civilizations wrote about them. The Sumerians, the Egyptians, the ancient Chinese, the ancient Japanese,
the carvings,
the Native Americans.
And the carvings that they made.
So many ancient civilizations. So many ancient civilizations have pictographs and stories and everything about aliens that we're not paying attention to. Yeah. And they move the whole ancient aliens thing to this pseudoscience that we can't believe that. Why not? I mean, for freak's sake, there's so many planets out there.
Yeah,
Mhm.
they're probably way more advanced than us. All
Well,
right,
that's
next
the
up.
thing. And that's the thing that my dad used to say. If aliens are coming, because I used to ask my dad, well, Dad, what if a spaceship parked out there in the field and came up to talk to us? And my dad was like, I'd probably kill them. And I was like, why is that? He goes, because, Thade, they come hundreds of light years across the universe in ships that are far more technologically advanced than ours. They should know where our leaders are. So if they're going to hang out where we are, or if they're going to come where we are, they're not looking for leaders. They're looking for somebody to mess up. you know?
Mhm.
They'll put him in a pod. All right, next one. Wow.
And this one here says many of the A-listers have their own production studios. The Rock's donation is peanuts compared to what he earns. They're also executive producers. Why don't they drop their pay and back in deals?
Okay, The Rock doesn't have to donate anything. The
Yeah.
Rock is not part of the management structure that should be compensating these people. Peanuts, I heard it was a significant amount. I don't know the exact amount, but anything he gives them, it's more than zero.
Yeah.
It's more than
They-
it's more than they're getting right now. You know,
Yeah, they didn't give it an exact amount. They just gave a very nice number and a big thank you. Plus, guess what? The Rock is not an A-lister. He's considered a C-lister.
financially
has
though, quality wise,
Financially, he's an
Financially, he's
A-list.
an A-list.
But
Yeah.
you gotta distinguish the terminology here. And again,
Yeah.
their drop their pay. No, the studio wants to pay them that much because they want them in that movie. Back end deals, the back end deals have to be requested. Those are the little.
Come back to that. The problem with him doing that is it sets a precedent for them to use that to drive down salaries. The same reason why the union in baseball, one year Alex Rodriguez was going to get traded to the Yankees, but or he was going to sign a deal with one of the clubs, and he was going to take a pay cut. The union said, absolutely not. We don't want you doing that, because what that does, that gives management a way to drive down wages or use it as a precedent to inflict that on everybody else and tell everybody else, hey, if Alex Rodriguez can do it, you need to do it too. So you'll never see that happening because it's a bad precedent. So next one.
That's all for the questions.
Okay.
Creed Fan Forever here, which I think this is probably Michelle. Go ahead and share your update in the chat.
Creed long.
Oh, hey Michelle, if that's you.
Aaron here says there are wall paintings the Aboriginals have done in Australia about UFOs and aliens. This is true.
Exactly. Yeah.
That's some interesting stuff too, by the way, Aaron. Very interesting stuff I've seen.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just looking. Some of these things, make sure.
Oh, okay, so that's not Michelle. Oh, well, go ahead and give the update. Whoever you. Oh, EJ. Okay, you're EJ. Gotcha. So what is your update there, EJ? And that'll be the last thing we bring up before we go out for the night.
Larry, what am I?
Larry, William, I'm with you. I believe they're definitely out there, but sometimes wonder if the UAPs are actually us, so the government is like, it's aliens. What's your opinion on it being disinformation?
I don't think the people who listen, I know I'm probably getting a lot of crap for this. I don't think anything that we've seen is aliens. I don't think that if they have the means to get from here to there, you're talking about interstellar travel. I think they have the means to not be detected, and I think those means are far superior to anything we have to detect them. I do believe that they're out there, and I think at some point in time we've co-opted some of their technology from years and years ago. I think most of the things that you see, especially if you see it out here in Vegas, is test things and things that we can't explain. But just think about that. If they're good enough to be able to get to here, I think they would have equal enough. It's like us. We have stealth technology because we've developed supersonic speed, supersonic travel. Do you think that somebody that has interstellar travel wouldn't have something to conceal themselves with? I mean, I don't think they would just have the technology to get here and the wherewithal to get here, and then all of a sudden become so clumsy that they could, we could just spot them like that. And and the only time I think you would see them is if they were gonna, like I said, they were gonna attack, because they would not be that intelligent and just clumsily, hey, I'm an alien. Oh, you can see my ship. Oh, darn. No, I don't think it would work that way. But that's just me.
I'm of the same opinion. I think that a lot of there's been so many leaps in technology over the last 100, 120 years that I think that maybe we're re-engineering some of the technology that might have been found in some crashes or whatever. Depends on whether you believe in the whole Roswell thing and some of the stuff that had happened before that. But I think we're reverse engineering a lot of things, because to me, there's no way we go from 50 years ago having a computer that's the size of a warehouse to your smartphone today. You know what I'm saying? It's very questionable to me to go from technology that lasts, that short a time, considering it took us, 250,000 years to invent the wheel. So I just think that there's some things that have gone on in the last century, last 120 years, 150 years, that doesn't make sense. But we could actually do a whole episode on this. You know what I'm saying?
Oh yeah, I know. I want to bring on Ty at one time. Ty, he used to do Pop Culture Corner. He was on Film Deck the other night, and I've been on his show a couple of times before he switched his format. And he's really on top of all this. That is now what he does. So I had to bring him on.
Okay, so Daniel wants to know, have we heard of Bob Lazar, and do you believe his story? If so, yes, I have heard of Bob Lazar, and some of his story is interesting, but I'm not sure that I believe it. Bob Lazar was a guy who worked for supposedly our government, and he supposedly saw a lot of things at Area 51 and stuff like that, up to and including aliens. So,
yeah, forget about that non-disclosure agreement he signed.
Yeah. Okay, so EJ here says, oh, this was the one that was doing the chemo treatments.
Oh, okay.
So my family and I burned some pictures of me in the hospital during my chemo treatments. Hey, man, it sounds like you're moving on from that. That's good.
Oh, I remember you now. I remember you now. Yes.
Hopefully you're doing okay, and hopefully the remission's holding out. I love hearing a good story, guy. I'm happy for you.
That's something you're talking to him. So that's always good, man. They burnt the pigs and triumph. I think that's good.
And Larry says, now we probably have drones that people say defy physics, but they're actually using physics. True. Well, okay, so Larry, the thing about physics is it's all theory. And over the last year or so, we found a lot of things found out a lot of things about our current knowledge of physics that is changing, especially when it comes to dark matter. In fact, we just found a galaxy that has no dark matter at all. So that should not exist, but it does. So I don't know. It's all physics is all theory.
Yeah, and will never be a topic of this show because I'm too stupid. All right, so all right, I think we've answered everything. Anybody want to hit me? Any random questions? Anybody in there want to throw at me?
Daniel Martin says, I'm definitely down for a UFO stream. So am I.
Yeah,
and there's so many things we could talk about.
Let's see if I can get a hold of Ty. He's on the East Coast, so but I know he's heavily into that, and I know I have access to him, so I didn't want to bring him on.
And the information for what I just talked about, Larry, just came out within the last couple of days, so you might try to look for it. Yeah, it's something for you guys to look up.
The Blade one, not as much as the X-Men one. I think the X-Men one, X-Men broke through. I think Blade didn't do as much. I know a lot of people say that, but a lot of people didn't associate Blade with a comic book. They associated X-Men directly to a comic book. They associated, Fantastic Four, all these ones to a comic book. Blade was just, more, I don't know. A lot of people really didn't know. Just like I get people in there all the time that think that walk in here and say, hey, and they look at the invisible trade paperback over there and they say, wow, they made a comic book about that movie, or about that cartoon. I'm like, no. So whereas the X-Men, there's undeniable that X-Men is a comic book. So I think the association with X-Men, the blatant association with X-Men, helped the comic book genre. Then Spider-Man and all those ones did more. It let Hollywood know at the time that they could make this big ensemble movie like this and make it as large as they did with X-Men. Because at the time, X-Men was top tier comic book movie making. So.
And Rhea makes a good point here. She says, I think reverse engineering is totally reasonable. How do we go from the Greco-Roman period to widespread illness of the Dark Age, then into the rediscovery of enlightenment through the Renaissance?
Yeah,
And she says, just a thought, maybe sickness and death of literacy caused a regression in society at the time. And I could say more on this right here. Whenever a society goes through cataclysms like pandemics and everything else, with the exception of this most recent one, when large amounts of people die, and like the Black Death, killed a third of the people on the planet. When and I've talked about this with somebody else here recently. When a major cataclysm happens, war, disease, famine, asteroid strike, what have you, there are only so many people that know how to make a light bulb. And sometimes that knowledge goes away for a while until you find it again. So this could be possible. Sickness and death of literacy does cause regressions in societies. So,
All right.
yes, Chappie, I saw your questions. The thing about that is, I don't think Disney will ever throw out the MCU completely. So going back to singular projects like in the early 2000s is probably not going to happen.
Okay, let me answer that because I people bring this up a lot. The shared universe is never going away, even if you do get. And I always hear people, they should just worry about making standalones and make a great movie. Get the fuck out of here with that, all right? The shared universe generates revenue at the pace and volume that these stockholders and shareholders want and need in order to sustain what they're doing and everything else. The small, are the one-offs like the Joker made $1 billion and that's the proof that that's the way to go. No, it doesn't. It proves that movie can make $1 billion. But if I'm investing in all this money into this company, the Joker came out 2019? All right, I'm in 2023. The Batman is going to be what? I'll be an elderly before the sequel comes out. It looks like you cannot sustain the company and the machine with a $1 billion movie every 3 years. So the shared universe gives you that revenue in the volume that you need. That's why they do it. That's why they connect these things. It augments their money-making ability. And this is not towards anybody else, but I always hear this, and it generally comes from the fan point of view to where, why does everything have to be connected? Money. Because most of the projects that you guys get to see, even the singular ones, aren't getting made if the machine is not generating the revenue that it needs to. And like I said, the Batman making $770 million is great. You know how much that means over the 3-year period until you get the next one? Nothing. All right, the Joker making 1 point whatever billion, is great. You know how much that means since the last? That money's gone. They want money after money after money, and that's how you do it. It's like and it's the comic book way of telling stories. If they had the wherewithal and the abilities back in the 70s and 80s to do it this way, they would have done it 40 years ago.
And in fact,
as soon as you could do it, they did it.
In fact, recently, Universal has said it's going to focus on just IPs. They're not going to do a whole lot of singular projects anymore because IPs are what's making money, unfortunately.
Yeah, and it makes you money in the volume that you need to make it. Like I said, congratulations to the Joker for making $1 billion. That doesn't prove that that's the way to go. That you can do both. The answer is doing both. But you're never going to see studios focus over one-offs over their shared universe. That's just you're leaving too much money on the table. And like I said, most of these singular movies take forever to make. And you just cannot sustain the project on like I said, Joker 2019. We're in 2023.
Daniel Martin here says, have you guys checked out the new Blade title? I'm hoping this is the one that can really give the character proper treatment. I have not had a chance to yet, but I do have it saved to look into.
I have not. I have it, but I have not.
It looks pretty good. Reyes says, William and everyone, did you try the Little Caesars, the Batman Pizzone when it was out? No,
Yeah,
I didn't.
I did. Yeah, I did. It's just it was a calzone. It was just shaped in a bat, or well, it was supposed to look like a bat, but it was kind of cool.
And Chappie says here, question, William and Thea, do you think that Kevin Feige has lost his way, especially after the Secret Invasion finale? No. A lot of when you have a shared universe and stuff, things are gonna hit, things are gonna miss. Actually, more things are gonna miss than hit. They're still gonna make them though. I can guarantee you.
I've been saying this for about 6 or 7 years. Half of what Marvel puts out, to be honest with you, was mediocre. However, it was anchored by top tier stuff that wasn't. For every Captain Marvel, and this is why Captain Marvel was able to pull in $1 billion, you had Endgame, you had Infinity War. For every Ant-Man and the Wasp, you had Captain America Civil War, Avengers 2012. But out of the majority of the movies were good, but there was a lot of just mediocre stuff. It's the same amount of mediocre stuff that's out there now. You're just noticing it because there's no big home run hitters out there to carry it and cover for it. A lot of the stuff that they put out during this entire run was okay to good. It wasn't great, but everybody gave it a pass because all the epic stuff that was coming out. Iron Man, like I said, Winter Soldier, Spider-Man. I mean, all the stuff that was coming out, there was enough coming out to distract you away from a lot of it, because all the Thor movies, in my opinion, sucked. But you gave them a pass because Thor's in the, all the other stuff that was going on. But now you don't have a lot of that coming out. And they're telling their story in a much different way, and you don't have the home run hitters out there. So you're starting to see it for what it has always been. It's just being carried by something else now, and people just don't appreciate it.
Alrighty. I think we can actually wrap it up now.
All right, cool. Let me do one last thing because one of the people that helped me get
again, I'm going to spam our Streamlabs link for donations if anybody is able to. We would appreciate it. Thank you.
Woohoo! All right. One of the sponsors
like
that
button,
helped,
please.
Yeah, hit the like button, both channels.
Like,
get a haircut, like and subscribe, damn it.
Like, subscribe, share us out on social media, of course. Do all the YouTube things.
Yeah, all the links that are in the description, hit them up. One of the places that helped me sponsor my trip along with Stroma was Get a Haircut. They were right below me, and I promise I showed their commercials. Here it is. All right, yeah.
That's cool. That looks neat.
Nice.
And that is Eddie Van Halen's. He has 2 of those downstairs. Those are Eddie Van Halen's guitars. 2 of Eddie Van Halen's guitars. I actually put my hands on one of the Frankenstrats, and they're actually more Eddie Van Halen's. He's got Kiss stuff down there. Gene Simmons, he's got signed Kiss stuff. He's got signed Guns N' Roses stuff. He's a rock historian, and he cuts hair. And I love the fact that he's right down below me. But whenever I need sponsorship or any of the events that we put on, they're one of the first to step up. So I wanted to show their commercial, them along with Sister Kim's and Stroma themselves are between all those guys. They helped me. And those of you who donated all the way up to that point, everybody helped. Like I said, I didn't spend a lot of money down there because I'm a cheap ass. But at the same time, a lot of that, everything helped to make that a very enjoyable trip. And then it would give me that. Like I said, Stroma paid for the pass, the 4-day pass, and then flights and all that. We're taken care of through sponsors. So thank you guys for helping me get to Comic-Con, and hope you guys enjoyed the content that the streaming content that I was able to put out in very weird situations, and the many pictures that I put on both Instagram, Facebook, Threads, Twitter. Twitter not as much because of the fact you have a 4-picture limit, as far as I know. If there's a way around that, somebody let me know. But other than that, that's it. That is it. We are into the next day. We are into another 100 million degree day. I don't know when I'm going to stream again. Most likely tomorrow because I got some more ads I got to run to keep some promises. But that one will be a semi-overnighter. It'll probably be around 10:30ish or so because I'm early on Sundays. And like I said, keep an eye out for a cover story. I probably should have that to you guys in the next couple of days, and it'll be the first of many. It'll be the first pre-produced thing that I've done that doesn't include a recorded stream. So, all right, for Steve, for Della, for Brad, we'll see you guys on the other side.